Today we're going to talk about how to actually live a simple life. Welcome back, Weird Souls. I know I look a little different than I did just a second ago, but this is Shannon from the future who, while editing this video, realized how long it actually is. So I've decided we're splitting this up into 4 different parts because we're talking about 4 different areas we can simplify our life. I'll release it slowly, which is actually better because that means it gives you time to digest each area that you can start taking steps to simplify without trying to digest all the different options that I give you and picking a couple from a very long video. So over the next couple weeks, we'll be releasing each of those videos so that you can pick out something in each area of your life in order to start simplifying and getting closer to having more space for the relationships that you want. But for now, we're going to continue on with this week's video. Thanks for joining me. Hey everyone, welcome back, Weirdos. I'm Shannon Davis, and this is Weird Souls, where we talk about how to live a Jesus-centered life in a modern day culture. Today, we're actually going to get into some specifics. So sometimes we get just kind of theological, philosophical about why it's important that we do things. But today, I actually wanted to drill down into legitimate how-tos. Because I know for me, sometimes I hear really great motivational stuff out there, but it's like, but then what do I do about it? How do I do that exactly? So we're getting more into hows in this video, specifically around how to live a simple life. So if you want more on the why, you can check out the podcast that we did last week on why you should care about simple living. But today we're going to talk more about the specific hows. So something that I think I talked a little bit about last week, but the reality is I do not live what people would consider a simple life. What many would consider a simple life, honestly. It's not necessarily one of my strong points, but there is something in me that I just living in like a tiny home on the road is one of those fantastical lives that I'm like, it's probably not as great as I feel like it would be, but it's definitely like a something that I'm just like, I think I would love it. At least I think I would love it. So I love all the concepts of a tiny home, of just the freedom of having very little to weigh you back, of I love the idea of traveling all the time, obviously. I like the organization and the cleverness of tiny homes. I wish there were more tiny home, real life reality show kind of stuff out there on Netflix and stuff. I think I've watched, at least last I checked, I've watched all the Netflix specials around tiny homes. But I just love that life. And maybe you're like me and you're like, I love the thought of that life, but the reality of getting there seems pretty much impossible. So it's all about the baby steps. It's not about like a big jump forward and doing everything all at once, because you'll probably fail if you try and do absolutely everything all at once. You might live there, or you might visit there for a second, but you probably won't live there. So it's all about taking baby steps. So as we're going through some of these hows, just identify like maybe one or two that you're like, that's the thing I'm going to focus on right now. Those are the areas that I'm like, that would make me feel a lot better. It would simplify things. Like just find the easy wins and then you can start moving forward. Eventually, we all get to that equilibrium kind of space where it's like, okay, this this is what simple is for me. Because the reality is simple for you is probably going to be different than my version of living a simple life. So, figuring out what that is and taking steps towards it, that's how we get to our end goal. But I'm going to go through 4 different kind of categories of life where we can assess how are we doing on simple living and how or what are some ideas on taking steps in those spaces. So we're going to look at just like kind of our life in general. We're going to look at our mental health. We're going to look at our physical spaces, and we're also going to look at our digital things, digital life. So those are kind of our 4 categories we're going to be looking at. So to start, let's start talking about just our life in general. And what I mean by that is really a lot to do with our relationships, our time, just the things that we do throughout existing, the things we have to do, jobs, all that kind of stuff, our life. And for me, in a lot of ways, there are spaces where I've gotten better at this. Like when we go on vacation and stuff, I am way simpler than I used to be. I was the girl that would like try and pack 3 different bags of all the things just in case I might need something. And now I've gotten it down to like, I mean, I could get away with like 3 or 4 shirts for 2 weeks worth of vacation, things like that. Especially if there's a way to wash clothes where we're going. things of that nature. So vacation, I've gotten simpler, not in my everyday living. Still love having lots of clothing options. So there is that. But in my everyday life, one of the filters that I've started using is is it worth it, basically? Is something worth the amount of time it will take versus whatever my alternative is? So, like for today, I took some stuff to Foster Clothing Closet and then also to our local version of Goodwill because I don't really like giving to Goodwill. It doesn't really do as much good as their name would imply. So I give to local versions of it that actually are helping rebuild and reinforce our community. So I took stuff to those places, and in the back of my head, I was like, I could try to sell these things on Facebook and get some of the stuff was decent things. Like I probably could have gotten up to $100 for the things that I was doing, but at the end of the day, I'm like, it's never worth it. Like it is never worth my time at the end of the day for listing it nicely, responding to things, setting up times to go do a swap, hoping they actually show up. Like I did that once upon a time, and I'm like, it's not worth the amount of time I'm putting into this for the amount of for being able to use that time for something else. So one of your filters to start with is just looking at the things you do and saying, is it worth the time I put into it? Or is this worth the money? What could I do with that time or that money instead of this thing? And really trying to decide, like, is it worth it? Another step in kind of like your time and resourcing categories with time is time blocking. I am a huge fan of time blocking ever since I kind of learned about it, which, gosh, it's probably been 10 years now, maybe, since I've learned about this version of managing your time. Like, ever since I've learned about it, it's been a game changer for me to really make sure that I'm spending time on the important things and prioritizing those first, but then also making sure that I'm not overwhelming my schedule. So, time blocking works great with a digital calendar. I recommend primarily doing your time blocking with a digital calendar. Even if you prefer paper and all that, you can transfer your blocks onto your paper and then fill in your details as you need to. But electronic calendars make it easy for things to repeat, so you're less likely to lose stuff in all of your planning and processing and stuff. But the great thing about time blocking is you can make sure you're spending your time on the important ways. All it means is that you go in and you're like, okay, this is the time every morning that I'm going to need in order to get ready. So it's up to you how detailed you get. I mostly just have a 1 hour time block that I get up before my kids are up. And that is the amount of time I need in order to wake up to getting my first cup of coffee. That's kind of the length of time that I need is that 1 hour. Sometimes I can do it quicker, but on the whole, an hour is the most I would need in order to get ready in the morning. And then if you're doing kind of more general stuff, you can do like this is the time that I work. So for me, it would be like 8:30 to 4:30 is kind of my work hours. And then if you're working out, or if you have family time or date night or any of these big bucket time usage moments, making sure those are all blocked out and represented in whatever rotation you do. So whether it is this is something that happens every day, like getting ready for the day, or whether it's like a monthly thing, like a date night, or maybe you have a family night once a week, or whatever that is, just making sure all of those things are represented in your electronic calendar and they're set to rotate on whatever schedule you need. That keeps them present in your planning process. They're automatically going to show up. And if you need to, you can adjust them, but it's not it takes the remembering out of the process. So you don't have to sit there and be like, okay, so did I make sure I got all the things? Like they're just automatically popping up on that electronic calendar every single week or in every single month whenever you go to plan. So that you're like, okay, I know this needs to happen. It can't happen at this time this week. So when is it going to happen? Or things of that nature. So the other thing to remember when you're doing time blocking is the fact that you need to add in white space and travel time. So when I first started time blocking, I was either double booking myself or I had everything stacked so tightly together that I would not succeed at my day. And so over time I've added in some more of the things that we don't think about being part of our schedule, but they are, such as travel time. If I have a appointment that I have to get to, I always make sure that I block the travel time before and after that, um, even in my work schedule, so that people aren't trying to schedule appointments for me when I'm actually going to be on the road and unavailable, or making sure that I have enough time to get to my kids' school and then to our appointments and things of that nature. So making sure that travel time is actually represented in our calendar. And then the other thing is white space, making sure you have time to breathe during your day. We talked a little bit about this in the rest podcast episode, but you don't want it to be nonstop and you don't have time to process anything or take a break. Some people have started the habit of making their 1 hour meetings actually 50-minute calendar meetings. So, and if you use Google, you can go in and change what your default time frame is for meeting time. Um, I still have mine as 1 hour time blocks, and I'm usually really good about keeping, especially the meetings that I am in control of, but keeping them on schedule. I do my best for the most part. I'd say I'm 80%, but making if scheduling shorter meetings is better for you, just to make sure that you have a little bit of that extra room in there. Um, White space will keep you from getting behind. So if one thing runs over or an appointment runs behind or whatever, things outside of your control, that white space just gives you a little bit of breathing room to be like, it's okay. It's not going to destroy my entire calendar. Gives you time to have like just a little mental rest in your day. Pomodoro method helps with that too. We talked about that in a couple of our podcast episodes, but just that white space to give yourself a moment to catch up on all of your mental thinkings of the day. And so those are kind of all the thoughts around time blocking. If you want to give that a try and see if that doesn't help you get your schedule and your life a little bit more in order. Kind of the next thing in my life that has helped me simplify in a not so obvious way. I don't think this would show up on a lot of simplifying kind of lists, at least not that I saw, but getting your health in order, I think, is a big piece to helping me simplify. For me, about a year ago, I was really struggling with my energy, feeling really tired all the time. And I'd gained like 40 pounds since I'd been married, which is not uncommon for women, and was just struggling with being heavy, not having energy, like just not feeling like myself or like I remember feeling. And on top of that, we had kids, and I was just like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. So I committed to getting some of my health in order. I did that in two ways. One was I committed to a dietitian because I knew lots of things about being healthy. I understood it all. Um, and there was a lot of things out there that seemed controversial, not controversial, clashing advice on what was and wasn't healthy. And it just got to the point where I was like, do I even know what healthy really is? So I was like, I'm just going to see a dietitian. They're going to tell me what to do. I'm going to do it. And I'm just going to do it. So committing to the dietitian was a huge accountability step for me. I did exactly what they said and I lost the weight. And now I feel like I understand health and what works for my body in a way that I can be successful moving forward. So I'm the healthiest I've ever been in weight wise in my whole life, which is great. All that to say, being healthy has helped me simplify my eating habits, but I still enjoy unhealthy things. However, because I'm staying healthy, it's simplified and there's only certain things that I'm going to eat because on the whole, that's what I eat. I just keep things simple. We simplified family meals for the kids. Like we've just simplified a lot of our food stuff, whereas before I would cook much more extravagant meals, which sometimes I still do, but the extravagant meals were a little bit more unhealthy. And so I don't cook those as much. And being healthy has just helped me simplify and focus in on what is good for my body to keep up with everything else that I want to do. Getting my physical health in order has also helped my mental health, which we'll talk about. But your body working properly gives you not just the ability to do all the things in life that you need to do, but it's also helped my self-esteem in a way that I am not seeking rewards or affirmation from other things in my life that usually came from me spending money and having things and having excess to feel good in the moment. So simplifying and helping my health has helped me simplify in all the other areas that were making me compensate for not feeling great about my health. So that might be an area that you're like, maybe that's the thing that I need to work on, is just getting healthy. Do it, having the conversations with a doctor that I have been avoiding, because we've all avoided conversations. Uh, Maybe health is where you need to focus in on and say, okay, I'm going to figure out how to be healthy so that I have the energy and the time and the focus to spend on all the things that matter. That's it for week 1 on how to simplify your life. Next time, we're going to be talking about how to simplify in your mental health area. So I hope you join me for some practical tips on how to start honing in on your mind space. But make sure to hit like and subscribe if you don't want to miss any of those future episodes. Check out some of my other videos, and we'll see you next time.